Welcome to the Shifted podcast and video series. Each week, we talk to classroom teachers about how their teaching and learning has shifted since the onset of the global pandemic. We delve into classroom practices, daily routines, structures and schedules, digital tips, tools, and tricks that you can use in your classroom right away. Welcome to the Shifted podcast and video series, episode number 8. My name is John Hamlin. I work with the Greater Victoria School District here in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, home to the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt Nation, upon whose land we live, we learn, we work, and today we podcast. This is episode 8, but it's also the last episode of season number 1. Season 1's focused on the remote learning period from March to June 2020 and was an interesting glimpse into the lives of many different classroom teachers across multiple subject areas at secondary schools, with a look at how they maintain connection with their students when they weren't seeing them face-to-face, what interesting tools, tips, tricks, digital platforms they use to maintain that continuity of learning for students when they weren't in the classroom, and how they maintain balance both inside and outside of the classroom when the world was going through such a tumultuous and uncertain phase. Season 2 will be launching at the end of November, and Season 2 is focused on our current model, the quarterly system that we've been engaged with since September, more focused teaching and learning time for longer durations with less diversity in our daily schedule, which affords us less mixing of cohorts and less mixing of learning groups, and really the ability to focus on longer chunks of learning, to get deeper into certain subject areas, and to really, it really supports an inquiry type of learning process. That being said, there's a number of challenges along with this as well. How do we squeeze so much content into this new time frame without just tripling down on our lessons and adding more? So we're going to get into that topic among many, many other things in Season 2. So stay tuned for new episodes coming at the end of November. I hope you enjoy those. On this episode, the final episode of Season 1, we're talking with Dana Bjornson from Esquimalt High School. Dana is a math and science teacher, in addition to having a master's in educational technology from UBC. Throughout this episode, she will be talking to us about how she's been maintaining connection with students primarily in her math courses, a few interesting platforms that she's used, and she's even sharing a couple of resources with us that we will be linking in the episode notes down at the bottom. That's it for Season 1. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy episode 8 with Dana Bjornson. Thank you so much for watching or listening on whatever platform you access this podcast. We really appreciate the support. Take care, and we'll see you at the end of November with Season 2. Started, we'd just like to acknowledge that this Zoom conversation is beaming to you from the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Esquimalt and Songhees Nation, upon whose land we live, we learn, we work, and we Zoom. And this afternoon, we're very lucky to be chatting with Dana Bjornson, math, physics, science, all-around whiz teacher from Esquimalt High School. Proudly has the Master's of Educational Technology degree from UBC, a program that I applied for and actually didn't get into. So, yeah, you got one up on me there, Dana. So really looking forward to hearing a little bit more this afternoon about your experience in the remote learning environment. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what classes you've been teaching over the last semester and what that's been looking like for you lately.
Okay, thanks for that lovely introduction, John. It's, you know what, with UBC, it's their loss. That's all I can say. So I've been teaching Math 10 linear. So these kids have been in school with me doing Math 10 Foundations Pre-Calc since September. I had a self-paced Math Pre-Calc Math 11 and a Physics 12. And my peer tutoring kind of was put on the back burner. I kind of let the peer tutors do or not do. I wasn't putting pressure on them to do anything, so I can't really count that. And then scholarship 12 was a pretty big commitment as well, because scholarship season really revs up in May, June, right? So I've been pretty busy.
And okay, looking at, I know you were pretty well versed in a variety of technical platforms that we have in the school district here, but how has your practice in terms of your planning and instruction changed since we've entered this remote hybrid learning environment?
Well, from the get-go, I didn't want to add testing into my mix. I couldn't think of a way to authentically test that wouldn't involve people having these huge loopholes to potentially not be honest. And, I don't want to ask students I didn't want to put them into that position. I knew that their job was going to be hard enough just to learn the material. I didn't want to then have these testing requirements that wouldn't necessarily be authentic anyway. So for my units that needed to be taught, I had them watch my video lessons, scribe the lessons, do some practice, very reduced amounts of practice. So, here's the minimum. You can now, do more if you want. I tried to incorporate Desmos, and some PhET for physics a little bit, like some digital interactions. And then instead of tests, I chose to assign what I called unit summaries. So in the unit summary, they had to summarize the unit. And I had a set of criteria for the summaries. And basically these unit summaries kind of represented what I needed to do as a student going through university in math and physics. Like, I developed this study process that involved creating unit summaries, and that really brought it together for me as a student. And so I felt that that would kind of mirror what a test could do. And then I provided mock tests and a mock final. And so the students who were functioning well during remote learning, if they really wanted to know if they knew the material, they could give themselves the mock test. I provided all answer keys for them to mark it. But then it gave the other students who were not functioning very well a way to participate fully in the class and get their marks without having that kind of test process. And I have to say, I'm not anti-test. In fact, the opposite. For math and physics, the testing process does help reinforce the learning and bring it all together and get it into that long-term memory. I believe in testing as an assessment tool in my subject areas, but I just couldn't wrap my head around doing it well if the student wasn't being invigilated.
So you mentioned Desmos, and what was the other platform for physics?
PhET. It's spelled P-H-E-T. It's science simulations, all sciences, a little bit of math too.
Yeah. In addition to those platforms, how are you kind of maintaining that communication with your students? What are you using to share that information with them?
Oh, okay. Google Classroom was the main platform, lots of Google Classroom, really encouraging them to use the comment feature so that everybody could benefit from answers from the question. I did actually find a really great whiteboard, interactive whiteboard program that I started off using, especially with my Physics 12 kids. I had lots of students in Europe trying to learn. Those international students blew my mind. And the interactive whiteboard was a way for the students to, interact with me, and we could hash together problems on this common whiteboard. But for some reason, they just didn't use it. Like, I found that, I tried a few different things that I thought had potential, but then in practice, they just kind of fell through. Kids were, for the most part, just doing the minimum. Like, I didn't get a lot of people really taking advantage of things unless I put a mark on it. If I put a mark on it, I got some results. But these other platforms, yeah, you could do this. Nobody did it. The people were just kind of surviving.
Well, it's certainly, motivation has certainly been a challenge, I think, for a lot of students, especially in the world where we're not really sure what counts and what doesn't count. And what we actually need to finish the year successfully. I know there's been a lot of confusion around that. So if we're starting September off in a similar fashion, what would you do differently, do you think, to start the year off in this remote world?
Well, I'm glad you asked because right now I can't keep doing this. Like I can't do remote content creation, communication, teaching, and do in class. Like as soon as we went to 1 day a week, all of the hours that I spent at school, that just got added on to my weekends and evenings. So it is not sustainable for a math and science teacher, in my opinion, to do both. So because of that, because I didn't want to fall apart, I instigated a departmental for the entire math department initiative in which all of us at Esquimalt will be using the WCLN distance learning courses run off of Moodle. And so now our entire department will not have to create content. Our limited time and energy is going to be 100% focused on helping our students learn and reinforce and helping the most vulnerable students as they come into our classroom. We will not have to spend any time making lessons. And I'm really, really excited about it because I just couldn't think of a way to do both effectively. Like I'm just like I'm at the end of my rope right now. I need summer to happen. So this is, I'm so excited. I'm like this week since report cards, it's just all been preparing for September. We've got our Moodle site, we've got our courses loaded, teachers can customize it, and we're going to be able to hit the ground running in September as we go in and out of stages. So stage 2 to stage 3, maybe stage 1, maybe back to stage 4, who knows? We're going to be able to have our courses there. It will be that Moodle continuity will be there every step of the way for the students, and the teachers can focus on what's important, which is, in my opinion, the learning of the material, not the creating. So
it sounds like you said you've got a great flexible plan in place, so you can roll with the punches regardless of what September looks like. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, is there any if you had to, share any words of wisdom or tips and tricks with any other math or academic, science teachers in the district, any last suggestions for folks?
I don't know. The WCLN for sure, like hands down, it's not how I would teach it, but I've let go of that. It's okay. It's good enough. I think your best is good enough. That's a saying that Tina, our principal, Miss Purick, brought to me at the beginning of this year. Your best is good enough. And I think that these WCLN courses are good enough. And just that mental health and wellness piece is super important. So it's don't reinvent the wheel, collaborate. If there's teachers that are teaching the same course, talk to them, and just like I just think it's ridiculous for us to be repeating things that are already out there. Like we need to share and help each other out right now, because it's unsustainable to do it all ourselves. So any opportunity to collaborate, I think that's my best advice.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much. Collaboration is key, especially as we all navigate these uncharted territories together. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Yeah, you're welcome, John.
Appreciate it.